Welcome to Series 2, Episode 8 of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. I'm Jeremy Gladwell, Lizzie's dad, and I'm telling the heartbreaking true story of how our daughter, a vulnerable young person, was taken, isolated, and subjected to coercive control, and how she was cast adrift by the agencies tasked with safeguarding. Faithful friends are a sturdy shelter. Whoever finds one has found a treasure. Faithful friends are beyond price. No amount can balance their worth. Ecclesiasticus 6. While the MP for Grimsby had officially taken on our case, most of the discussions were actually with her assigned caseworker. During one of these talks, I asked if it would be helpful for the MP to receive letters from a wide range of people in Lizzie's support network. You see, I've been the one most vocally and persistently pushing for justice and a professional response from the agencies. I've been engaging in dialogue with these unresponsive institutions, producing the document, trying to stay in touch with Lizzie, and creating this very podcast. My wife, Jane, has been involved, of course, but for her mental health, I've taken on more and more to shield her as much as possible. I recognised the risk that my actions, the sheer, anguished determination of a dad, might be seen as Mr. Gladwell versus the world. But this was never Jeremy Gladwell versus the world. I was simply the one pushing the hardest, the one speaking most earnestly. I've said it many times, and I say it again. I am Lizzie's dad. That unbreakable bond, that indescribable love, is what has given me the strength to keep pushing forward, demanding accountability, seeking answers, and refusing to be silent. I needed answers as to how on earth our vulnerable daughter, with all her learning difficulties, could be taken in this way, and have it condoned and supported by the state. That doesn't make me an obsessed vigilante. It makes me a dad. There are so many others, friends, family, grandparents, godparents, concerned professionals, who are just as bewildered, outraged, and anguished as we are. What can we do to help? They kept asking. And up until now, there really hadn't been much. Some had tried expressing their concerns to Focus Adult Social Work, and every single one of them had been ignored. But now, in discussion with the MP's caseworker, there was a way. Would it be helpful to have testimony from a range of people, I asked. And the caseworker agreed. It would be helpful because it would provide useful quotes and anecdotes, as well as vital insight into Lizzie's relationships with her loved ones. And so I asked, and people responded. They had no brief, no script, other than to simply say how they saw things, based on what they knew of Lizzie as an individual and us as a family. The letters started arriving. Messages from angels. The following quotes, taken from some of the letters sent by members of Lizzie's family and support network, represent the immense well of collective grief and bewilderment at Lizzie's inexplicable removal and isolation, and the indifferent response of the statutory agencies. Family member. Lizzie was a much-loved member of the family, with a happy and engaging personality. We were aware of her vulnerabilities, and it seems unfair that just because she had passed a certain deadline, the oversight and caring duties of other agencies could be summarily switched off. Family friend and head of a local charity working with vulnerable young people. It was nice to see such a loving and supportive relationship that Jeremy and Lizzie had with each other. It wasn't strained, it was very natural, and she doted on her dad. Family friend. Lizzie's disappearance from home and church was out of character, and a year and a half since having last seen her, her welfare is still of grave concern to me. I am worried for my friend. Family friend. The apparent lack of understanding, action or concern by state safeguarding agencies has been baffling. This situation would appear to be a clear case of the coercive control of a vulnerable young lady by people who do not have Lizzie's best interests at heart. Family friend. It has been and remains absolutely devastating to Jeremy and Jane that their daughter has been so cruelly coerced and removed from their lives. We can only appeal to you to help in any way you can to reunite this family, as virtually all other bodies have been unwilling to intervene. Family friend. Lizzie loved her family and church family and friends without fault. It is extremely out of character for Lizzie to just up sticks and leave her family home never to return. To cut herself off from everyone she held close is unthinkable. Family friend. How can so many professionals fail to protect this vulnerable young lady? The police, safeguarding officers, social services, the list is long. Lizzie does not have the capacity to effectively make decisions. She just wants to make the people around her happy, no matter what the cost is. Family friend. Lizzie's parents doted on her, loved her unconditionally, and included her in everything. To say they are devastated and broken is an understatement. What will it take for her parents to be heard and taken seriously? Jane, Lizzie's mum. As a result of the various traumas and horrendous attitudes of professionals, I have been put through the same feelings as when one experiences the death of a loved one. I've experienced that same crushing despair over and over again. However, the agencies have never considered that trauma's impact in their handling of any of this. I do not believe that Lizzie would want to cut me, her dad, my family, her church family, and her childhood support from her life. Whether directly or through subversive, manipulative, and psychologically damaging methods of influence in a subtle and pervasive way, Lizzie has been forced to cut us out of her life. Godmother. I can't describe the empty void of minimal contact via text, which I believe are monitored. No physical contact since Lizzie was abducted. There is no other word for it. This is honestly like a death without a funeral. There is no service to remember her, no grave to visit. But to all intents, she is dead. Family member. We love Lizzie dearly. To have her stolen on her 18th birthday is surreal. She has no ability to make such judgments for herself. Only when living close to her on a regular basis does the true picture of Lizzie's shortcomings in decision-making become abundantly clear. I believe Lizzie to be in grave danger of abuse. Family member. It is immensely frustrating and disappointing how the authorities have failed her. The services and individuals responsible for safeguarding Lizzie have been incompetent. Whether through ignorance of her condition, its complexities, its impact, or the specific support individuals like Lizzie require, this is no excuse. This is unacceptable. Lizzie is easily manipulated, leading to extremely serious allegations that would never have arisen had the authorities performed their role correctly and protected her. Family friend. As parents, Jeremy and Jane are warm, devoted, always praising Lizzie's qualities, supportive of her needs, and as loving and caring as any parents I know. When Lizzie was taken and isolated from them, Jeremy and Jane acted as any parent would, thinking first and foremost of the safety of their daughter. Adult or not, Lizzie is vulnerable due to her FASD condition and particularly susceptible to control. Family member. Lizzie is a young woman whose parents have given her every opportunity and have given her love, trust and respect. Her FASD diagnosis and the level of impact this has had on her development make Lizzie a very special young woman. Nothing that has happened in her life would lead her to want to turn her back on her family. All was well. Is Lizzie a mastermind in subterfuge and escape plans? Nothing would lead us to believe this. Family friend. Lizzie sent me messages telling me how much she had to change so that her boyfriend would love her. She sent messages telling me to help get her out of the place she was in. But then when I said I would pick her up and make sure that she was safe, she changed her mind, saying that she loved him. She told me that she didn't feel safe there, but she loved him. She told me that he controlled her, but she loved him. She told me that her boyfriend told her she needed to change to save the relationship, so she was going to change so that he would not break up with her. She sent me messages saying that she didn't know what to do. She frequently reached out to me, and then very suddenly blocked me. I do not believe this was the action of Lizzie. Maria, the head of FASD Network UK, didn't know Lizzie personally, but she has extensive experience in many other cases where there is institutional ignorance of FASD. Maria described the situation with precision, and her clear professional summary should have jolted the agencies into action. Quote, "The situation in the Gladwell family is an unusual one, in that Lizzie's partner and his whole family suddenly took a vulnerable young adult, who would socially and emotionally present like a primary school child, and moved her into their home without any prior arrangements, without any discussion with her parents, with no knowledge of her medical history, with none of her own property, in an unplanned and sinister snatch and grab way. They then severed her relationship with her parents and all her extended family that had previously been positive, and she has never been returned home. Nothing of that situation reads as though this was done in the best interests of Lizzie. When this situation occurred, it would have been entirely appropriate for the police, adult social care, the college, and others to proactively engage with Lizzie's parents to understand the urgency and the peculiarity of the situation. But no services appear to have demonstrated concern that was equal to the vulnerability of Lizzie and her need to be safeguarded. Despite efforts by Lizzie's parents to flag their concerns, there appears to have been a lack of professional curiosity and indeed an active silencing of the parents." End quote. All of these letters, not just these quotes, but the letters in their entirety, were sent to the MP for Grimsby. In total, around 30 people sent letters. These messages from angels were from a spectrum of people who had known Lizzie, shared our family life, and knew the strength of our bonds. I truly am grateful for the MP's input. Thanks to her, Focus Adult Social Work and Humberside Police were obliged to give answers. The answers were demonstrably untrue, as far as east is from west. But those blatant untruths further added to the evidence that both adult social care and the police had something to hide, that they had fouled up, and that they were covering up for something or someone. The MP also raised questions in Parliament about support for individuals with FASD, and anything that raises awareness of FASD is to be applauded, so I am immensely appreciative for that. Yes, her contribution has been positive, but I just wish, I really wish, that she had read the letters she was sent. Had the MP read them herself, I believe these messages from angels would have had great impact. How could they not, given the depth of pain, confusion and anguish expressed in those pages? Had they been read, the letters might have broken through the barrier. In February 2025, I wrote to the safeguarding head of Linkage Community Trust, stating my belief that Lizzie had been subjected to predatory removal, coercive and controlling behaviour, manipulation and exploitation, and that Linkage College had been involved in the development and perpetration of this situation. The chief executive of the trust responded, saying that an investigation would be instigated. An investigation did take place, and the results shone an unexpected light on events of Lizzie's 18th birthday, events which prepared the ground for her predatory removal. What I was not prepared for was the level of institutional culpability right from the outset. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. Please subscribe for updates at lizziegladwell.org.uk. Share this podcast. Add your voice to ours. I want to express my sincere thanks to all those who wrote letters to the MP for Grimsby. Your words will have lasting impact, be sure of that. Thank you again, and join me for the next episode.